Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia and this is the summary for the day of 892 to 893 for the 3rd to the 4th of August. And the frontline changes report, of course, has already been published on the main channel after the DPA open mic. So do check out the DPA open mic, and also after the posting of the updates, around 12 hours later, which is around now as per the recording, there is still new frontline changes, and again it's all still red. So there's frontline changes over Druzhba, Pivnishne, and Uruzhaine. So it's mostly New York. So at the New York front, we have new updates. At Druzhba, there is a geolocation of Russian forces in Druzhba. This means that this is the first update in quite a few days, quite probably a week or so at the Druzhba region. And there is a more shocking one, which is this one. The Russian forces have been geolocated on the northern half of Pivnishne, and this means that the Russian forces have captured the entirety of the southern Pivnishne. So let me draw it better. So they basically just went around the slag heap or the Dnieper or the castle, depending on your preferences, and the Russian forces basically have captured all of this southern neighborhood of Pivnishne, and they are now in the northern part, above the northern half of the highway that goes through Pivnishne towards Thorax. Very, very massive changes around in this Thorax sector of the New York front. And then there is the 1 month frontline change is over in Uruzhaine. So at Uruzhaine, there is more updates coming from the Velika Novosilka sector of the Donetsk front, with Russian forces taking further positions in the northeastern part of Uruzhaine, capturing more grounds, which joins perfectly with the previous update that we have already reported of the advance in the northern part of Uruzhaine. So as per this moment, Uruzhaine is firmly under Russian control, 100%. So this is the frontline changes over in the past 12 hours. So this one is a summary of strategic tactical reporting for the last 2 days. So the last 48 hours, crazy amount of changes has happened. Certain fronts, strategically speaking, has entirely changed. So we'll go through from the Kherson front all the way to the Kharkiv and Sumy region. And so hang on, massive changes over in the Donetsk region, in the Zaporizhia region, in the Avdiivka region, New York region. So don't tune away. So we gotta go. So we have to start off with Kherson, because we can't just ignore it. Over at the Kherson front, there is only shelling reported at Sadove and Bahunka. So this is based on the Russian Defense Ministry's report on the 3rd of August. So after that, there is nothing over on the 4th about the Kherson front. Kherson front basically is went pretty stagnant per se. And we move on over into the Zaporizhia front. This is one of the major updates. The Russians as I mentioned before, have concentrated one army group, focusing only on the Kayamsky sector and the Orikhiv sector. This entire front line. We are talking about a front line of 60 kilometers, focused by purely one army group. Of course, they're also in charge of the Kherson front, but Kherson front is very quiet. So in this area here, Russian forces is conducting offensive, and the offensive seems to be gaining speed faster and faster. Can I zoom in? No, cannot. So Russian forces are attacking at Kayamsky, Shebaki, towards Novodanilivka, at Robotine, as well as towards Malatomashka. And so while this is still not full-fledged offensive yet, it is seemingly gaining speed, it's gaining momentum, but there is a shocking frontline change in this region. Over in the Robotine region, the Russian forces have been geolocated right smack in the center of the Surovikin line, which the Ukrainians have captured. So this is part of the entrenchment that the Russians have prepared to fight against the Ukrainians, when the Ukrainians captured when they captured Robotine along the way, as they then try to progress towards Verbove. However, the Russian forces is now geolocated right smack in the center, which, based on a judgment call, DPA, my judgment call, I have concluded that this area here is now fully captured by the Russian forces. This is not yet corroborated or confirmed by any of the sources from Russian and Ukrainian side, but this is purely based on a educated assessment of the situation on the ground. The Russians have basically captured this entire of the Surovikin line. So I would definitely still look out for corroboration, and if there is any other information that invalidates it, especially with geolocations, I will of course invalidate the mapping and change it accordingly. So tentatively, this is DPA's stance that the Russians have retaken the entire of Surovikin line. So in this front line, I just want to highlight where the previous Russian lines was. The Russian lines previously looks like this, something like this. So this is where the Russians start off. The Ukrainians attack in the 2023 counteroffensive, and they managed to go all the way like this. This was the extent of the Ukrainian capture. They went all the way here, and the Russians have now retaken half of it. With this half a year of slow grind, the Russians have retaken Robotine. They have taken a lot of grounds south of the Surovikin line, and this is the first time we have seen Russian forces re-emerge in the Surovikin line, right in smack in the center. So in case those that do not know, Surovikin is one of these commanders, high-ranking general that was tasked to manage the entire special military operation by the Russians after the Ukrainians first caused severe strategic problems for the Russians. And Surovikin, upon the partial mobilization in the late 2022, made massive major strategic changes, and the line that this was created also, he's one of the mastermind behind it. So anyway, with this, we can see that the strategic situation here have drastically changed, with the Russians taking all these grounds, and this entire region here, the farmlands, I believe the Russians would be able to progress much more faster without this heavy entrenchment blocking the way. So this is my assessment. And once they hit this line and along the highway, close to the highway, they will have effectively invalidated all Ukrainian success in the 2023 counteroffensive in this Orekhiv sector of the Zaporizhia front. So we move on away from the Zaporizhia front, and we move into the Velika Novosilka sector of the Donetsk front. And Velika Novosilka is here. So the Russian forces are attacking towards Storozheve and towards in the direction of Rozdolny. Rozdolny. And the frontline change, however, appears in Uruzhaine. This is where the frontline changes appeared, and the Russian forces have been geolocated, as per mentioned in the frontline changes report, to have fully secured Uruzhaine with this massive update. Let me reduce the mouse speed. So this is the current situation. The Russian forces taken all these grounds, and they will continue to progress northward towards the Velika Novosilka sector. They will need to first capture Blahodane first. So that's the situation in this area. Geolocation of Russian airstrike in Vremivka was geolocated, and there's also another one over in Rozdolny. So the Russian forces are making these strikes in these regions here while they're trying to make this push towards Velika Novosilka on this eastern part of this river over here. And we move further on. Over in this Konstantinivka-Vodian region, Russian forces are continuing their offensive in Paraskoviyevka, in the battle of Konstantinivka, in the south of Konstantinivka, and towards Vodian. There is Russian airstrike in Vodian, in the rear position of Vodian, whereas Russian forces have been geolocated to have a new position within the battle of Konstantinivka. So this geolocation confirms that the Russians are still conducting offensive and are continuing the battle in this region, because there is very little news coming out from this area here in this battlefield. So this geolocation firmly confirms that the Russians are still indeed pushing, and the lack of significant progress would mean that the Ukrainians are resisting. They are definitely resisting. They are not retreating yet. So the Ukrainian forces, unlike the forces in the Avdiivka front, where they are collapsing, like the entire line is collapsed, the soldiers is totally disorganized and is is in a mess. This part, the Ukrainian forces are still very intact. they are still making whatever they can to defend this area. Of course, the south of this location is kind of broken, as the Russian forces have already made some small breakthroughs here and there. So we shall see how this goes. The next intel drop will be shocking, I believe, from this front line, particularly over in the south of Konstantinivka towards Vodian. I think the next update will be massive. Moving into the north, over in Krasnohorivka, and the battle of Krasnohorivka may be continued, but there's not much updates right now. We do not know where is the next vector of attack the Russians are heading for. Fighting reported at Georgievka according to the Ukrainians. So that's all for this region here in the Marinka Georgievka sector. We move into the Adievka front. So this is Adievka city. It is Adievka city, and you can see that the front line has really progressed very far away. So this egg yolk here is splashing onto the other side and is threatening Pokrovsk with some dirty eggs. So over in this southern part of the Adievka front, let me see how should I do it. Okay, I've done it like this. Russian forces are attacking Khalivka, Yasnobrodivka, and towards Skushny. So this is the fighting, in this region. Russian forces blow up a bridge north of Skushny, partly to deal with the developing tactical situation in north around the Stepova Novoselivka region. So Ukrainian forces has been geolocated at Khalivka. A M777 suddenly appeared and have been destroyed by FPV drone. This is I haven't seen the M777s being reported or geolocated for some time, so this is one of them in today's report. So, but then this artillery is way too up front, too near to the front line. So not sure why is it so near to the front line. So anyway, it got destroyed, and so this is the current situation. The Russians are pushing, but no frontline changes updates reading here within this area. We move further up north in the Pokrov direction. We have geolocation south of Komishevka. There's a PV drone hitting Ukrainian armored vehicles. And in this sector over here, Russian forces are continuing their progress towards down the railway line. They are still moving forward as the frontline changes continue to move along the railway line. They have also started to attack into Zeleny from the railway line and into Serhievka. In the eastern outskirts, the Russian forces have actually progressed down the eastern flank, and they are threatening to close up a different route and able to attack from the east. Within Novoselivka, Persia. So just now I said Stepova Novoselivka, that was wrong. So it's Novoselivka, Persia. Russian forces have fully secured Novoselivka, Persia, and they have attacked towards Mezove. So fighting is now already reported at Mezove according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. So so that was already 3rd of August. They already confirmed that the Russians are coming. So the bridge here is destroyed. So the Russians are also pushing towards Skushny as mentioned. The Russians seems to be also making some advancement on the eastern part of Serhievka, and they are pushing towards Khodivka as we speak, and they have secured and captured Vasily. If the battle of Ivanivka has begun, with the Russian forces entering into the southern part of Ivanivka, capturing part of it, and clear out the salient around this area as per confirmed by the Ukrainian mapping. So this entire sector is a mess. Ukrainian forces have Khodivka around here and Novokhodivka. So two I would say small medium city that is holding the line. And the Ukrainians tentatively still doesn't seem to have a clear line of defense. I'm not sure where the main line of defense. I can imagine maybe they will take a line around the Krasny Yar, Zuravka, Olivka, all the way to Mykolaievka. Maybe this will be the next line of defense, because at least there's a chain of settlements, it linked by a road. So that could be the way they want to stop the Russians from heading towards Novokhodivka. But if the Russians go towards the north, towards Khodivka, then of course it doesn't really matter. But the Russians would be very keen to take charge of the entire railway line, because they can use the railway line to speed up advances. If they capture Pokrov, then it will be a perfect way to transport troops and resources to the new front line. So this entire front line has really melt down badly. And I think the next update we're going to see maybe the capture of Serhievka, maybe the capture of Ivanivka. So Serhievka is over here. This Serhievka, this Ivanivka. I think these two may be lost in the next update, and maybe even Mezove, because Mezove is very small. Russians could also capture it. So this entire region here is a mess. The Ukrainians also acknowledge that Zaline is one of the main directions the Russians are focusing on in the Avdiivka front. The other one that the Russians are pushing on is over at Novo-Alexandrivka. So we move into the northern flank of the Avdiivka front. Russian forces are still harassing Kalinove. Fighting is reported in Novo-Alexandrivka region and Vodizenka. Novo-Alexandrivka is also where the Ukrainians say that the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, the Defense Ministry themselves say that Novo-Alexandrivka and Zelene is the main direction the Russians are focusing on. Russians are also focusing on Timofeyevka, as they have already captured this. They are pushing towards Sviridonivka and also attacking towards Lysychny and Ivanivka, as mentioned, Vasily as mentioned just now. So Russians have already made some progress around here, and they entered Ivanivka, threatening Lysychny, and yeah, they're already pushing out. Ukrainians are holding the line around the Kazany Torets River. They are holding this line around here. So as per I have predicted, the Ukrainians made the defensive line along the water body. The Russians have not been able to push northward yet due to the defense along the water body. So this is not working out yet. This one not happening. So tentatively, this is the situation around here. But as such, I would imagine that the Russians will continue to make the push westward. And if you look westward, this is Khodivka, and you can probably imagine that after the Russians seems that they have already captured Vasily, they would go towards Khodivka. They would potentially want to capture Ivanivka, Lysychny, Sviridonivka, and then push in this westernly direction so that they can hit the northern part of Khodivka and then create a different vector of attack from two sides. So this will take some time, and of course they want to take Novotoretsky so that they can move northward and secure this entire front line around here to protect the northern flank as they continue to push towards Pokrov. So the strategic situation here, the Russians can do many things. Of course, they can from here cut over to Melanivka and cut the road, preventing Ukrainian reinforcement from coming. They block the road, and then they can continue to focus on the attack on Pokrov. So this Battle of Pokrov will be very complicated because you can see, this is pretty heavily defended, a lot of settlements, small villages all around. So it will not be an easy capture. So whatever the Russians are doing, they are now setting up the stage. Ukrainians still have time. They still can have time to make the defense line, multiple defense lines to protect Pokrov. But once the battle reached Pokrov will just be another front line, just like what happened to Bakhmut. Bakhmut is a major transport hub. It was very strategically important, but when the battle was pushed to Bakhmut, when the battle of Bakhmut began with the Wagner forces attacking it, it's just another frontline city. The entire strategic value is lost. There is no longer strategically valuable. It's just that losing it, you just lost another ground, another city, because once the front line reached there, it lost its logistic hub status. So that's the thing, because so Pokrov is this major artillery system. Not artillery system, artillery system. It links from all different directions. But if the front line reach here, then this road will not be able to use. This road you can't use. Maybe this road will be disrupted. This road maybe cannot be used. Then it's no longer a hub. It will just be yet another frontline city, with two roads leading to it. It's just another frontline city. So this is important to note. It is strategically important now. Capturing it or force the battle near it will disrupt it and destroy its value. So that's how the war will progress. We move into the New York front. At the New York front, the Russian forces continue to attack in these two sectors, with fighting reported in New York towards Petalamenivka, in Zalizny towards Torex, in Pivnishne and Druzhba. In particular, we have massive changes and updates at the Torex sector of the New York front. In this sector of the New York front, Russian forces have made a lot of progress in this region, and all driven by all these geolocations, and which means that the Russian forces have basically captured all of eastern and southern Pivnishne. The eastern part of Druzhba has basically secured. There's a strong foothold by the Russians there. The Russian forces have basically secured the first entry into Torex, and they have already threatened the southern castle. The northern castle is now getting went around, and Zalizny basically is almost confirmed to be under Russian control. We are almost there. We just need some confirmation from the Ukrainian side to call it capture. But Zalizny basically is under Russian control. It's basically captured. As much, and from strategically speaking, Zalizny is gone. It's lost. It's lost to the Russians. The Ukrainians have lost it. The Russians have taken it. So the battle will then progress into Torex region in multiple directions. And from Pivnishne, with the battle going into Pivnishne, continue the rest of Druzhba. They'll go around this castle towards Torex, through the forest, through the cemetery, Dacha region from the south in the southern district. And the Russians would also go towards the New York front from this region here. So, and particularly concerning is the Russians, as I mentioned previously, they could go towards Nelipivka and basically link up with the forces coming on the western part of New York, which will then culminate in a massive pincer movement, which will create the biggest encirclements since Mariupol. So this Ukrainian defense line, heavily defended, will be now at the risk of full encirclement. This is a real threat, and this will be the biggest encirclement since Mariupol. So this is a very, very scary thing. I think maybe not Mariupol. There's another one is Lysychyne, at the Severodonetsk, not Lysychyne, Lysychansk. So there was this previous battle. Lysychansk was almost getting encircled with the Russian forces pushing from the south and pushing from the east. And the Russians were also coming out from the north, and the Ukrainians do see this massive withdrawal from Lysychansk. So this was a pretty big encirclement. But in terms of significance, I think this is pretty big as well. This is just as big. And even though you may look like this ground, there is still maybe around 4 kilometers something, maybe 4 kilometers in a direct straight line. There is a lot of water bodies around here. You can see all this water body. This will hamper movement, definitely. So, but the Russians don't need to go through here because there's a lot of entrenchment around here. The Russians could just go down the road towards Nelipivka, and once the battle starts in Nelipivka, this entire area will not be usable. So there is just one junction, 2 junctions, 3 junctions. And maybe the Russians could also take this junction by attacking in this direction down south. Capturing this junction would also do the same thing, because if they go to this junction, this road will not be usable as well. So, and then this area is already under Russian control. The Ukrainians will not be able to pass. They can't pass through here. They will still have to go through Nelipivka. So this junction, if the Russian can capture it, will create a near operational encirclement situation for the Ukrainians, depending on the situation in the Battle of New York. So if you go south from Nelipivka, there is only a few roads. So if this road is taken out, then the Ukrainians cannot go up. They cannot go through here. Then the only road left is here. There's a crossing over here. There's a crossing over here. So this is so let me use another color. So this is the crossing. This is the crossing. These are bridges. There's another one go through here, but going through this area here near the industrial zone, the Russians are already very near here. So this probably cannot be used effectively. So the Ukrainians don't have a lot of path. They can go through this eastern part of New York to travel through Nelipivka and of course through this northern part of New York to do withdrawal. And just by Russians taking this one location, so the entire Ukrainians will be in massive operational problems. And if the Russians able to continue to push and cut off this road, you can see how narrow. There's only one road left. This is the only road. I'm not sure what color to use anymore. This is the only road that the Ukrainians can use. Only one road left. If the Russians continue to make this push over on the western part of New York and continue the push from Zaline, this is not Zaline. What's the location called? Zalizny. Sorry, it's almost the same. So from Zalizny coming to this junction, the Ukrainians will be nearly operationally encircled. That's how weak the position is. It is not the 4 kilometers distance. It's just one junction and another push inside of New York, and the entire strategic situation here will just collapse. And the Ukrainians must be very, very worried, especially if you are a Ukrainian soldier deployed in the south. Oh my god. No, help. This is going to be one hell of a hike. So this is very, very bad for the Ukrainians. Very, very bad. So anyway, this is the analysis of this region of the New York sector of the New York front. So we move on over in the southern sector, southern flank of the Bakhmut front. Russian forces are attacking in Klishchiivka and Andriivka towards Bilohora and towards Dilievka. So there is some push around here, but we do not know much about these pushes. These are all mentioned by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry and Russian Defense Ministry. So there must be some kind of push from Kodyumivka in this direction. We're not sure what exactly is happening. We will have to wait for more updates, more intel to drop. Ukrainians continue to claim Andriivka, causing the frontline change to become overlapping. And the Russian forces claim to have taken some grounds in the northern part of Klishchiivka. So very small changes. This is not very significant per se. The information now, the intel suggests that the Russians are now attacking this fortification to try to capture the entirety of it. So this is the current battle in Klishchiivka. So we move on. In the central flank, in the Chasiv flank, Russian forces are attacking in Ivanivsky. They have fully secured all of eastern part of this canal, around the canal micro district. They have started to push into Zotneve as well as Novi. They are starting to push into it, but very, very slow. And generally fighting is now in Chasivia. So this is the current situation in the Bakhmut front, in the Chasivia direction. So on the northern flank, there's only fighting reported at Versilkivka, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry on the 3rd. So some attack. So this continues to be, off and on. We move into the Sivers front. At the Sivers front, the Russians continue their Sivers offensive with fighting reported at Okanyamsky, Spurny, Ivano-Darivka, Vimka, and Perezny. Shelling is reported in Serbianka, and that's the strategic situation right now. We do not have any intel drop for the Sivers front, so we do not know what's the latest changes here. So I suspect there will be some big changes next. We shall see and wait and see how this goes. We go into the Crimea front. So in the Crimea front, there is some updates previously, as already mentioned, the Ukrainian capturing the Serbian part of the Serbiansky forestry, and then the Russian forces are attacking Toske and Terny. In the northern flank of the Crimea front, Russian forces are attacking at Makiivka and Nevsky. So that's about it. If I zoom out a bit, you'll probably see that this is the strategic view of how the attacks are going on. These are all pretty weak attacks. These are not offensive. So these are just skirmishes. Moving into the Sviatove front, there is fighting reported in Stemakivka, and a geolocation of Lancet hitting a Leopard tank near Lozova. So over here. So there's a leopard tank operating around this area here. So yeah, indicative of how serious the Ukrainians take these front lines around here as they deploy precious main battle tanks from the NATO side. And we move into the Kupiansk front. And at the Kupiansk front, Russian forces are attacking two sectors in the Sinkivka sector and the Pishane sector. In the Pishane sector, the situation is getting very interesting. So Russian forces are attacking Berestove in the Pishane region and Tabaivka. And there is also by extension attacking towards Novo Osinove, towards Khlukivka, towards Kolinikivka, and towards Krylyakivka. So the Russians are pushing from Pishane in all these different directions. And this is not made up. This is literally reported by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry and the Russian Defense Ministry. These are by official sources, mostly by the Ukrainian Defense Ministries, that the Russians are pushing in these directions. And the sentence is clear. They say that the Russians fighting in the area of these various settlements. So the Russians are making this push, which I find it very interesting. How serious is the push? I'm not sure. As they try to go all the way along the Oskil River. If you cannot see the Oskil River, it looks like this. There's an Oskil River here, and the Russians are now looking to cut into the Oskil River region and basically cut the Kupiansk and the Sviatove front into half. So we move further on over in the Sinkivka region. Russian forces are attacking at Sinkivka and towards Petropolivka. A lot of geolocations near this front line with bombardments of basically airstrikes. These are all airstrikes and thermobaric missile strikes. So around this area, thermobaric missile strikes, airstrikes. So this hitting all the Ukrainian positions around here. They are grinding away the Ukrainian forces in this area here. So it must be very difficult because the front line here must hold. Because if the Russians get anywhere near to Kupiansk, all the front line away from Kupiansk will fall because of lack of supplies and reinforcement and whatnot. So this line must hold, which is why the Ukrainians put a lot of effort into reinforcing the Sinkivka area here, and the Russians do have a lot of problems trying to break through this area here. So that's all from the Kupiansk front. The geolocation of M777 getting hit in Mali Burlok. So like I said, this is the other M777 getting hit. Over in the Kharkiv front. At the Kharkiv front, we have fighting reported in Klipoke, Lipsy, Staresia, Voschansk, and Taike. So the Russians of operations in the Kharkiv front continues. In DPA's position, the Kharkiv offensive has always been a diversion. We have said it even before the Kharkiv offensive has started, that there's no reason for Russians to go towards Kharkiv. So it was always meant to be a diversionary attempt. And so far, it have worked magically for the Russians. And it literally weakens all the other front lines as the Ukrainians put a lot of good troops into defending the Kharkiv front because they bought into the idea that the Russians would attack Kharkiv. They sent a lot of good troops here and weakening all the other front line, which then now we see the results. A lot of breakthroughs in Adiyevka, New York, and Donetsk. So, and in terms of the Battle of Voschansk situation is very terrible for the Ukrainians as well. All the geolocations is shelling and airstrikes. So these are all shelling and airstrikes on Ukrainian positions. And something further away, this hit by FPV drone. So Russian forces continue to use this as a kill zone to destroy all Ukrainian forces that try to meet the Russians in this area here. The Russians are not pushing. They're not pushing. They're basically luring the Ukrainians into this kill box. And the Ukrainians are taking the bait. And they are entering into the kill box. So that is unfortunate. So that's it for this Kharkiv front. And we move on to the Sumy region. At the Sumy region, there is two cross-border attacks in Basivka and Myroplia. So this is the two regions the Russians have done some harassment. So I don't think these are real offensive yet, but it's definitely very, very disturbing. As you can see, all the past attacks in this region here, the Russians are disturbing the Ukrainians across many lines. So anyway, this is the situation report, or the summary for the day of 892 to 893 for the 3rd to the 4th of August. So do press the like button, subscribe, share this with your friends, family, contacts, especially anyone who is interested in Ukraine war, or you find them very brainwashed by mainstream media. Drive them here. I try to convince them. Through my daily reporting, everything is from two sides. You can see Ukrainian Defense Ministry, Deep State UAs on the Ukrainian side. As the reports, we have Ryba and Russian Defense Ministry on the other side. So, and then we have neutral mappings like Crimea Caprice, and we have also geolocation by military summary as well. So to complement the reporting. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next update. And check out the TPA open mic.